this is one of the coolest effects, but it's one of the most complex because you can change so many variables to make it look different and go exactly for the effect that you're looking for. This can be used for generating what's called particles in different layers that you're working with. So let's go ahead and jump right in so you can understand what I'm talking about. If I go down here into this effects and presets composition I made, I'm going to go up and create a solid layer, just white. So let's double click that, and I'm just going to hit enter, and I'm going to type in particle world, and that's going to be the name of the layer. Now I'm going to come over here and just type in part, and I'm going to drag this effect onto here, and it looks like it hasn't done anything, and we have a ton of different settings. So let me just show you what it does. As I scroll through the timeline, it's going to generate these particles. So you can see that we've got orange and yellow right now. And what we're going to do is I'm going to try and change some different settings to just kind of go for the effect that I'm looking for. So when you're working with these complex effects, most of the time it's good to work with them up in this corner in your effects controls, because as you start dropping these down, you're going to get a lot of different changes that you need to make, and it's hard to do down here in the timeline. So let's go ahead and just start from the top, and I'll give you an overview of what you see in here. So you have a grid and guides. If you drop that down, you can change a lot of these advanced features, but we're not really going to work with those. What I'm going to show you is this birth rate, the longevity, and then we've got under here where it's producing, and then we've got some physics adjustments we can make, and then the actual particles themselves, and then some extras. So you got some the effect camera, which we're not going to worry about, and then we've just got some random seeds, and this is like how to randomize what you're working with. So let me undo, and then the other thing I want to show you is that if you go down here to the effects, drop this down, compositing options, you can change the opacity. So how much of that effect do you have? So what we want to do is I'm going to start, and I think to make this better, I'm going to take the fill and change this to black, and then we'll be able to, let's see here, drop this down, go from the beginning. I think I've got the composition settings. Let's change that to black. All right, so then we can see what's being created a little bit better. Okay, so we've got orange and yellow. I'm going to change this resolution to full and see if I can use that so you can see a little bit higher quality. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here to the effects and presets, and under birth rate, it's at 2. If we increase that, and you want to be a little bit farther in here, you don't want to be at the beginning because you won't be able to see as well. If we go up here to about 2 seconds, we can see what's going on, and it's throwing all these particles everywhere. It kind of looks like a bunch of sparks. If we increase the birth rate, that's going to increase the number of particles that we have on the screen. So if I go back from the time of birth, or the time that they're being created, they're creating more particles. I don't want that many, so I'm going to go back down to about where we were. Let's go to about 1.7, and you can see as we play it back, it's a little thinned out. Now, if we come back here, we can increase the longevity. So this is the seconds that these are created. So if I go up here and go about to 3, and I come back and play it, that's going to be the longevity of the actual particles. So how long are they staying in existence, basically. So I think we'll take that right back down. And then we're going to go down here to physics. So this animation is explosive. Now I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will go through a couple of them. So if we go to this twirl effect, for example, you can see that now as we play it back, they're twirling as they're coming out. If we go to this vortex and we do it, it's actually going to be going upwards, and it kind of looks like a tornado. We can change the velocity, so how fast they're going. We can slow them down, and so if you change your velocity, notice how that affects your physics. So they're all coming down now, and we can change all of these different options. Now, like I said, this is very complex, so you're going to have to play around with this to see what effect you're going for, and that's really all this is. It's what is the effect that you're trying to achieve. There's not a right or wrong way to use these. Now, if I go to the actual particle types, I can change it to different spheres. I can change it to kind of like a lens, a convex lens. So I can change. If I go back here and I set a keyframe and I go through here and change the birth size, and then I change that in a second or two, when I play it back, you can see that it comes into existence as I've added those keyframes. So if you notice, from the beginning you have these part of the original particle type, and then as you go through, they've changed into the quad polygons. So all these different ones, I mean, you can even have bubbles and all these different things. But let me remove these keyframes real quick. We're under particle. We'll highlight these and delete them. And as I go back, you can see that there's some bubbles. And then we've also got cubes and all these different things. So let's go to line, and we're going to go to the opacity map. And the color map, if you change this, this is going to tell you the origin to death. So the origination of the particles to the death of the particles. And this color map will show you, as they go through that process, what's going to change. So we've got on birth to origin. If we go to birth to death, we can see that when they're born, they're yellow, and then as they die off, they're turning to red. So we could change this. Maybe we want the birth color to be like a green. And then when they die, we could have this like a really solid red. And then you can see that that has changed it just a little bit. So it's more of a green, and then it transitions into red. You can also have a custom color map. That is pretty much all I'm going to talk about in the particle section. And then under the extras, if we go down to our timeline here, and I'll bring this up, you can see that we've got this effect camera, and then depth Q and all this advanced lingo. But the only one I want to focus on is this random seed. So if I go up to about let's go about 400, and I go back, you can see that it's going to be difficult to see because we haven't made too many changes, but as you pan it back, it's actually more random than it was before. So you can see how everything's kind of splattering all over the place. If I take the randomness off, it's going to be just a little bit different of a look because it's a little bit more controlled. So that's particle world in a nutshell. You can really use this to achieve some really cool effects. If you go back to the physics, you can also change the direction axis, but you can also change the gravity too. So if you want to take the gravity and make it go up, you could do that as well, instead of having everything down, because it kind of defaults to what's regular gravity. And you can have resistance, so make it look like, there's some kind of force that's pushing on it, and it's keeping it right here, and all of these other settings. So if you have any questions about Particle World, or if you're not understanding, or if you really like it, then create some stuff with it. Try to find an effect that you want to go for, and then just make it happen. And the best way to learn, obviously, is just to tweak all of the settings. So let's go ahead and jump into the next effect.